got to get rid of this loser. This guy is bad.
When they're protecting pedophiles, when they are blowing our budget, when they are starting wars overseas, I'm sorry, I can't go along with that.
So Donald Trump has an opportunity now to get rid of Thomas Massie, a primary election in which Massie has to fight another Republican supported by Donald Trump in order to keep his seat. It is Donald Trump flexing his muscles, saying to his party that he is still entirely in charge. Will the party accept that? Let's talk to Jolene Almendarez, who is a reporter for the Cincinnati Enquirer and has spent some time recently with Thomas Massie. And Jolene, can we start with the guy himself? Because he is, he's an interesting and slightly eccentric man.
Thank you so much for having me today, Justin. He invited me out to his farm in the northeast part of Kentucky, Garrison, Kentucky. And when I went out there, he surrounds himself with plenty of people. He has his new wife, Carolyn Grace Moffa. He has his campaign folks, many of whom have been friends with him for a long time. I did a tour actually through Eastern Kentucky, and one woman I spoke to who works at a pizza shop that Thomas Massie likes to go to told me that they think of him like family there, that he shows up, people come up to him, they talk about issues, he chats with folks. And I know years ago when he was running for Lewis County Judge Executive, he went out with his former wife, Rhonda Massie, and they used to play jam sessions with people in the community as a way to connect with folks. He's someone who is really nerdy, right? But he is also manages to be charismatic in a way that draws people to him. And very much like me, he is a yapper. So once you get him going on an issue he's interested in, he'll chat with you all day about it, as I've learned, which is really fun.
And when you chat, not just to him, but to people, and not just at his rallies either, or his events, but more widely to conservative, Republican people who live in that district, are you getting a sense of how they feel about this primary race and the Trump candidate versus him?
Of course. Me and a photographer ended up going on sort of a road trip through the eastern part of the district and back to the central part of the district. And we talked to voters. And what folks told me, there was one gentleman who was sitting in a little shortstop building where you can get food at the counter. And he was so interesting because he said that he'd voted for President Trump 3 times, was an ardent Trump supporter, agreed with President Trump's policies, but that he would be voting for Thomas Massie. And the reason behind that, it wasn't just because, he lives near Thomas Massie and he's a hometown guy. He told me it was because he thinks Donald Trump needs to push back, that Donald Trump needs someone like Thomas Massie to sort of check that power and check some of these policies. He told me that also, and I heard this again and again from many people, is that the deciding factor for them was the Epstein files. I mean, most people in the country supported the release of the Epstein files, and that is something Massie pushed for so much, so openly. And that gentleman I was referring to actually told me, because of the Epstein files, Thomas Massie will always have my vote. Now, on the other hand, for instance, back in the beginning of March, President Trump was in northern Kentucky doing a little bit of a rally, talking to folks about the economy. But another thing he did is that essentially became a rally for Ed Galbraith. President Trump endorses Ed Galbraith. And when I talked to folks there, I talked to numerous people who told me, Massie, he can go. Northern Kentucky doesn't need Massie. We need someone who's going to support Donald Trump's agenda more directly. So it really just depends on who you talk to.
I'm really interested, though, that you can talk to someone who is a firm Trump supporter, but who is able still to go against Donald Trump. And I think it's more widely, this is a person or a category of people that we don't talk about enough, really, that you can be a firm MAGA supporter and regard yourself as a firm MAGA supporter and a firm Trump supporter, but actually you're more independent-minded than possibly that Donald Trump would like and that we kind of give people credit for in a way.
Yes, I'm so glad you used the phrase independent-minded because I'm not sure if there's another phrase to describe Kentucky voters. Just as an example here, Kentucky voted for Trump easily. Trump won Kentucky in the past few presidential elections. Almost a totally red state. This is Trump country that we're in right now. But then we have a Democrat governor, Andy Beshear. And I did the math for an article I wrote, and Andy Beshear only wins with the numbers he wins if Republicans got into that voting booth and voted for him. So I think independent minded is the perfect phrase to talk about Kentucky voters. And, I think what you're saying is, we don't necessarily always give voters the credit they deserve to sort of parse information to figure out who they're voting for or what their opinions are. I think I had that general idea before I actually went out into the district that Trump supporters would support candidate Ed Galrein, but that's not the case.
Do you get a sense of how it's going to end, whether Massie can win?
I just spoke to someone about that yesterday after those primary results out in Indiana. I had that exact same question. I spoke to Northern Kentucky University political science professor Shauna Riley, and in that conversation, she agreed it's a tough race for Massie, but he has that name recognition. He's very popular in the district. At some of these events I've gone to, people drive hours to come see Thomas Massie speak. I'm talking about 5 hours. I'm talking about 8 hours. They're driving to hear him speak. And so she said that it's going to be a tough one, but she thinks he may still come out victorious. I'm not taking a side either way because I definitely don't have a crystal ball.
You just give us an impression there of Kentucky. You can drive for 8 hours, can you, and still be in Kentucky?
No, these people are driving from other states. These folks are driving in from Missouri, the northern parts of Ohio. People are driving in from parts of Indiana. And they drove there to hear Thomas Massie speak in Florence, Kentucky, which is a pretty small, it's a metro area, but it's quite small, just to get a chance to shake his hand. And Thomas Massie stayed. He took a photo with every single person who was at that event back at the end of February. And it's cold. It was spitting a little bit of drizzle, and people were still out to hear him speak.
Give us your own impression of his farm, because it is quite a place, isn't it?
Yes, it was definitely crossing it off my professional bucket list to finally make it to the farm. So Garrison, Kentucky, on the approach, if I can just paint you a scene, there are like these rolling hills. Thomas Massie often refers to it as the Shire from Lord of the Rings. And I got to agree with him. It's very Shire-like. Um, on the approach to his land, he kind of got out and he gave me a walk around. This space is so sacred to him. And I really get that impression because his now past wife, Rhonda, grew up there. That's her family's land. And it's where they had their first date when he went to help her with her science homework, but she didn't even really need the help. So when I get to that land, he's so excited to show me a new bridge that he's building, a small bridge that he's building on his land so he can have more grazing pasture for his animals. He went and he took me to a pecan tree and picked pecans up to give them to me. I did take one pecan. And as he's driving me to this home that he built, he literally pulled rock out of the land and hand chiseled these stones to make his home. And when I told him, man, I would have just given up about a third of the way through, he was like, no, I gave up many times. Like part of this house has been started and then stopped and started and stopped many times. He definitely told me that has happened. Um, but it took him years to build this beautiful home where there is a sort of man-made small pond and these geese, ducks who are on it. He tried to give me actually duck eggs, but I told him they wouldn't survive right for the whole interview. And there are peach trees by his house. There are solar panels. We did a lot of our conversation as he was sort of moving his solar panels from being in what he called winter mode back to summer mode, so facing a little bit more horizontal toward the sky. It was really interesting to be in this space that he has spent so much time and takes so much pride in having built and nurtured over the years. And as a side note, you should also know him and his wife Rhonda lived in a trailer, I think he told me it was a 900 square foot trailer for several years with eventually, I forget if it was 3 or 4 children. And he had to keep promising her, don't worry, the house will be ready anytime soon. Um,
Jolene, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. You've got one of the best jobs in American political reporting at the moment, haven't you, on the Cincinnati Enquirer, but also with this incredible story happening on your doorstep. It's just fascinating, and I'm so grateful to you for bringing it all to us and bringing it all so alive. Maybe we could talk to you again once it all happens, because we're not far away now, are we, from the denouement, as it were. I don't know whether denouement is a word they much use in northern Kentucky, but it's going to be fascinating, isn't it? And it's going to be nationally important too.
yes, it will really showcase. So, because, like you said, Kentucky is so independent minded, I believe that Thomas Massie still has a chance to win this race against Ed Galrein. And so, if that happens, it will show a shift in what Republican voters are going to accept in government over the next few years and in the years to come. So I'm so excited to see the outcome of this race. You have no idea. And I'd be happy to be on again to tell you how election night goes.
Jolene, thank you so much for talking to us.